I have in fact had clients come to me after the fact where their garnishment was issued. Their employer did not know prior to the garnishment that they owed the taxes. Once the employer became aware that back taxes were owed, they were terminated because of this. So it's not something you want to risk. One of the biggest questions I always get asked from any potential client, or even clients that I do have, is, will my employer be notified if I owe back taxes? The answer is yes, certainly they can be, especially if they garnish your wages. If they garnish your wages, obviously your employer is going to know that you owe the IRS or state taxes. Is it going to hurt you in your job? Possibly not. Is that something you want to deal with? Probably not. The best thing to do is to prevent the garnishment to begin with by working with the IRS to resolve the outstanding issues. Same with the state. And I can tell you over the past 2 to 3 months that the state of Virginia has become extremely aggressive in garnishing paychecks and bank accounts. If the state of Virginia garnishes your paycheck, if you call them immediately, they may release up to 50% of your wages. Without working out an agreement, you may be able to talk them down to 25%. 25% is still a pretty big number. If you cannot afford 25%, you really need to work with them to release it and prove a hardship why they shouldn't take 25% of your paycheck every week. With the IRS or federal taxes, we can get a garnishment released once it has been issued, provided we are able to work out a reasonable agreement, or we can show that the garnishment is putting undue hardship on your family or yourself. Again, the best way to deal with a garnishment is to deal with it before it happens. In the last 6 months, the IRS has been really moving forward with their LT11 notices. An LT11 is a final notice of intent to levy. They were basically put on hold during COVID and not issued. Over the last 6 months, they have been issuing these letters in waves, new waves coming out every few weeks, catching up with all the taxpayers that owe back taxes. These LT11s are your final notice. If you don't act on them, the IRS can issue garnishments and liens if a lien hasn't already been filed. An LT11 also provides you with certain appeal rights. If you do not respond to the letter within 30 days, you may lose your appeal rights. What this means to you is that if you don't act promptly, if the liabilities are wrong, or if there is another issue where the IRS did not do what they were supposed to do prior to taking enforcement action, you may not be able to take your case to tax court. Why is this important? Tax court is usually the last hope for some people. It's very rare with my clients that we go to tax court. 95% minimum of all cases get resolved before they get to tax court. However, if you don't respond to the notices in a timely manner, the LT11 or the Form 2058, you lose the ability. You can't go to tax court. You don't have that option. If you're trying to negotiate with the IRS on a lower amount, if you lose the ability to go to tax court, the IRS does not have to factor in with your offer hazards of litigation. Anytime you go to court, there's a hazard of litigation. The IRS will have to weigh how good their case is. So, real important, as in all my videos, do not let an IRS debt sit there, or especially with the case of Virginia these days, a state debt sit there, because they will garnish your paycheck and they will garnish your bank accounts.